In 1953, Frida Kahlo arrived at her first solo exhibition in Mexico by ambulance. She was carried into the gallery on a stretcher and placed in a four-poster bed among her paintings. She greeted visitors, sang songs, and held court while doctors' orders quietly expired in the corner. It was a perfect Frida Kahlo moment. Pain had confined her to a bed, so she made the bed part of the event. Today, her face appears on tote bags, coffee mugs, socks, dolls, and objects that have never shown the slightest previous interest in Mexican modernism. She has become more recognizable than most of her paintings. So, how did a painter who received limited attention during her lifetime become a global icon of endurance, rebellion, disability, feminism, and Mexican identity? The simple answer is that Kahlo turned her wounded body into art. But that answer can also flatten her. She did not merely record suffering. She carefully constructed images that made private pain public while keeping control of how the world saw her. Frida Kahlo was born in 1907 in Coyoacán, then outside Mexico City. Her family lived in the house now known as La Casa Azul, the Blue House. Her father, Guillermo Kahlo, was a photographer. From him, Frida learned something important about portraits. A face is not simply captured, it is arranged. At 6, she contracted polio. Her right leg became thinner than her left, and other children mocked her. She responded with exercise, mischief, and a growing habit of refusing to behave as expected. In family photographs, she sometimes wore men's clothing and stared directly into the camera. Even as a teenager, she understood that appearance could be used as armor. She attended Mexico City's prestigious National Preparatory School, where she was one of a small number of female students. She hoped to study medicine. Then, on September 17, 1925, the future she had planned ended during an ordinary journey home. The bus carrying Kahlo collided with a streetcar. A metal handrail pierced her body. Her spine, pelvis, leg, and foot were badly injured. Later accounts sometimes decorate the accident with dramatic details, but the documented reality is quite dramatic enough. She survived injuries that brought repeated operations, plaster corsets, long periods in bed, and chronic pain for the rest of her life. She was 18. During her recovery, Kahlo began painting seriously. Her family adapted an easel so she could work while lying down and placed a mirror above her bed. The available model was therefore Frida Kahlo, who was reliable, inexpensive, and already present. This practical arrangement became the center of her art. She painted herself dozens of times, but these were not simple exercises in resemblance. Her face remains controlled, while everything around it becomes unstable. Roots grow from her body. Veins connect separate figures. Nails pierce skin. A broken column replaces a spine. Monkeys, thorns, blood, flowers, medical equipment, and Mexican landscapes gather around her with the calm formality of guests waiting for dinner. If badly drawn pictures and remarkably complicated people sound like a reasonable arrangement, subscribe and remain quietly concerned with us. Kahlo's paintings make pain visible, but they rarely ask for pity. In The Broken Column, painted in 1944, her torso is split open to reveal a damaged classical column. Nails cover her skin. Tears run down her face, yet she looks directly outward. The body is breaking. The gaze is not. That difference matters. Kahlo's pain did not automatically create great art. Pain can just as easily create exhaustion, isolation, and paperwork. Her achievement was giving physical experience a precise visual structure. She could make the viewer understand a body as both flesh and symbol. She also painted experiences that respectable society preferred to keep invisible. In Henry Ford Hospital, created after a pregnancy loss in Detroit in 1932, Kahlo lies bleeding on a hospital bed. Red cords connect her to a fetus, a pelvis, a flower, and medical objects. Nothing is softened. The painting is intimate, clinical, and emotionally exposed all at once. By then, she was married to Diego Rivera, Mexico's enormous famous muralist. They met through artistic and political circles and married in 1929. Rivera was more than 20 years older, already internationally celebrated and physically difficult to overlook. Their marriage became one of art history's more crowded relationships. Both had affairs. Rivera's included one with Kahlo's younger sister, Cristina, a betrayal that deeply wounded Frida. Kahlo had relationships with men and women. The couple divorced in 1939, then remarried in 1940 under a new arrangement involving greater financial independence. Apparently, the first marriage had not contained enough advanced paperwork. It is tempting to treat Rivera as the great love who explains every painting. He was central to Kahlo's life, but he was not the author of it. Her work also grew from disability, sexuality, family, political commitment, and a changing idea of Mexico itself. After the Mexican Revolution, artists and intellectuals were debating what modern Mexico should look like. Rivera painted huge public murals filled with workers, indigenous history, revolution, machinery, and social struggle. Kahlo worked on a much smaller scale, but her paintings were equally deliberate about national identity. She drew from Mexican folk art, religious votive paintings, pre-Columbian objects, plants, animals, and indigenous clothing. Her Tehuana dresses became especially famous. They expressed admiration for indigenous Mexican culture, created a commanding public image, and helped conceal or accommodate her injured leg and medical supports. This image was authentic, but it was also constructed. Kahlo did not simply wake up looking like the final form of a national symbol. She selected clothes, jewelry, hairstyles, poses, and backgrounds with the same care she used inside a painting. She made herself into one of her works. Her politics were not decorative. Kahlo joined the Mexican Communist Party, left it, and later rejoined. She and Rivera hosted the exiled Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky at the Blue House in 1937. Kahlo and Trotsky also had a brief affair. This was an unusually efficient combination of international politics and domestic inconvenience. In the late 1930s, Surrealist leader André Breton praised Kahlo and claimed her work for Surrealism. She resisted the label. Her strange imagery, she argued, was not painted from dreams, but from her own reality. That statement should not be taken too literally. Kahlo used fantasy, symbolism, and invention. A woman does not generally walk around with her heart outside her dress and a second version of herself holding the other end of an artery. But the emotional and bodily experiences beneath those images were real. In The Two Fridas, painted during her separation from Rivera in 1939, two versions of Kahlo sit together. One wears European-style clothing. The other wears a Tehuana dress. Their exposed hearts are joined by a blood vessel. One holds a tiny portrait of Rivera. The other cuts the vessel with surgical scissors as blood spreads across her white skirt. It is a breakup painting, but it is also about divided identity, European and Mexican ancestry, loved and rejected self, physical anatomy, and emotional injury all occupy the same bench. The composition is orderly. The situation is not. Kahlo did receive international recognition. She had a solo exhibition in New York in 1938 and exhibited in Paris the following year. Artists and collectors admired her work. But Rivera remained far more famous, and Kahlo's career was limited by poor health, money problems, and the art world's habit of treating a woman's work as an interesting side room beside a celebrated husband. Her health worsened during the 1940s and early 1950s. She underwent more medical treatments and spent increasing amounts of time confined to bed or using a wheelchair. In 1953, part of her right leg was amputated. That same year came the Mexico City exhibition she attended in bed. Frida Kahlo died on July 13th, 1954, aged 47. The official cause was a pulmonary embolism. Speculation about suicide has continued, partly because of her declining health and writings, but it has never been proven. Her transformation into Frida the icon happened largely after death. Feminist scholars recovered her work. Chicana and Chicano artists embraced her Mexican identity and politics. Disabled people recognized an artist who made bodily difference impossible to politely ignore. Queer communities responded to her sexual independence and refusal of tidy categories. Then the market arrived, carrying a large shopping bag. By the 21st century, Kahlo's image had become a global brand. A major 2026 exhibition about the making of her icon displayed more than 200 examples of Frida merchandise. This popularity keeps her visible, but it can replace the artist with a simplified mascot. The communist becomes an inspirational slogan. The complex painter becomes a decorative eyebrow. Pain becomes a cheerful message about being strong. Kahlo was strong, but she was also angry, jealous, theatrical, politically committed, funny, contradictory, and sometimes cruel. She did not overcome disability and leave it behind. She lived within a damaged body every day, adapting her work, clothing, home, and ambitions around it. That is why her paintings remain more unsettling than the merchandise. They do not promise that suffering improves us. They show that pain can alter a life without completely owning it. Frida Kahlo became an icon because she made herself impossible to look away from. But behind the flowers, the clothes, and the famous face was a disciplined artist performing a difficult operation. She took a body the world might have treated as broken and made it the center of the frame.